Today on How It's Made Dream Cars, the Zenvo ST1, a Danish hypercar that's not just turbocharged, it's also supercharged. Zenvo wants you to be scared when you see an ST1 driving down the road. The designer of the ST1 was told to make it look evil. He turned to images of wild predators for inspiration. The shoulders of a crouching lioness translate to the hypercar's fenders, while the headlights convey an eagle's eyes. These influences help to give the ST1 its aggressive stance. The car's free-flowing positive curves create the impression of dynamic movement even when the car is parked. This design helps express the ST1's monstrous strength, with a V8 engine capable of producing 1,104 horsepower. But aesthetics alone don't make a car body. The designer must also incorporate key elements like aerodynamics and downforce for maximum performance. No matter how sophisticated the design software is, there's no substitute for sculpting the car in 3 dimensions. Zenvo also mills the full-scale version of the ST1 in polystyrene. The final product is a true supercar that can accelerate from 0 to 60 in 3 seconds flat and reach a top speed of over 230 miles per hour. The secret ingredient at the heart of the car is an engine that has both a turbocharger and a supercharger. Zenvo uses a combination of aluminum and steel to build the chassis of the ST1. The steel is a specially formulated high-strength type. This allows for thin-walled tubing, a weight-saving design that maintains strong torsional rigidity, a crucial aspect for any high-performance car. Because the manufacturer only makes 5 or 6 ST1s per year, they can focus on crafting every aspect of the car by hand. Here, a technician carefully measures and positions all the components of the rear chassis frame in preparation for welding. He uses a folding ruler to ensure the gaps are perfectly aligned. Then he TIG welds all the components together. It takes about a week to build the rear frame and another week for the front frame. Once complete, the frames join the central monocoque to create the framework for the hypercar. It's hard to believe that this metal frame lies underneath the sleek body of the ST1. Zenvo builds the body exclusively from carbon fiber. A technician uses a pattern to cut out the correct amount of carbon fiber needed to create the car's paneling. Thanks to the very durable but incredibly lightweight nature of carbon fiber, the Zenvo ST1 weighs in at just over 3,000 pounds. The car's light weight also helps it meet the very stringent Euro 5 emission standards. A remarkable feat considering the amount of horsepower it puts out. Here, a specialist builds a section of the rear side panel by carefully hand layering carbon fiber into a mold. Using carbon fiber to make a car body is a method of construction that blends textile work with sculpting. This process is painstakingly slow and the fiber is expensive. But when you're hand building a highly exclusive dream car in such small numbers, you must use the best materials available. Low-volume made-to-order goods production is one of the few industries that still employs skilled craftspeople. Now, the craftsman presses a sheet of carbon fiber in a mold that is similar but not identical to the first one. This section of the body panel will house Zenvo's signature gas cap, so it must be prepared with that in mind. Once the two molds are prepared, a technician covers them with a layer of material called breather fabric. Then everything is sealed inside a clear plastic bag. The air is vacuumed out, creating a tight seal that ensures precise control over the curing process. To cure the carbon fiber, the worker turns on an electric heating system embedded within the mold. It takes roughly 5 hours to demold this type of carbon fiber. They let it sit overnight before removing it from the mold. Release agents were applied to the fiber to help with the demolding process. However, the technicians must still proceed very carefully to avoid breaking or cracking the part as they remove it. Here, a worker is using a grinder to cut away excess material. This requires a steady hand. Next, the technician uses a different handheld power tool to cut out the gas cap opening. Once finished, he sands the edges smooth. The finished carbon fiber components come here to a sealed painting station. Buyers can choose any finish they want, but many opt for a clear coating that protects the surface but reveals its distinctive weave. Here, a specialist sprays the parts with an automotive-grade sealant. ST1. The S stands for supercharger, the T for turbocharger, and 1 indicates that this is the company's first model. Few cars in history have had both turbocharger and supercharger united in a single engine. Having both a supercharger and a turbocharger means that the car has instant throttle response no matter how low or high the revs. Here, a technician mounts the clutch onto the aluminum engine block. This clutch is an accessible component that can be easily replaced if necessary. Zenvo adhered to this same philosophy when designing the car's powertrain. They use high-quality but conventional parts rather than exotic, difficult-to-replace components wherever possible. Next, the worker installs the compressor for the air conditioning. Even with this addition, the engine remains remarkably small considering how powerful it is. Yet another benefit of combining a turbocharger with a supercharger. The intake manifold of the Zenvo ST1 houses a liquid-to-air intercooler. This provides the engine with cool air to maximize its efficiency. The cores of the intercooler are long cylinders made of dozens of extremely thin aluminum discs stacked together. They provide an enormous amount of surface area in a very small space. As the water pump moves cooled water through those cores, the discs absorb the heat from the charged air and disperse it. Combustion engines need air to work. A supercharger is essentially a very sophisticated air pump. It boosts the performance of the engine by forcing in extra air. Zenvo's engine management system was developed entirely in-house from scratch. As a result, the manufacturer has complete control over the car's parameters. Here, a metal cutting machine saws a long aluminum rod into small discs. Thanks to its remarkably low density, aluminum can be cut easily and quickly. However, the process generates heat from friction. To keep the saw blade from overheating, a constant stream of liquid is applied. The aluminum discs then go to a highly specialized 5-axis milling machine. The machine has multiple stations, allowing it to work on multiple components at the same time. This machine can shape a Zenvo fuel cap in less than 10 minutes with extreme precision. Working from the top down, the cutting tool sculpts the aluminum so easily, it looks like it's carving a material that's as soft as wax. The machine mills the fuel cap following a computer-aided design, while monitors display its swift and precise motions. The milling machine automatically selects the tools it needs. Here, it's using one of the thinnest bits to etch out the company's name. This machine has a cutting tool that's thinner than a human hair. In about 8 minutes, the milling machine can transform a simple aluminum disc into a sleek component of a high-performance supercar. When it comes to a hypercar as exclusive as the Zenvo ST1, the interior must be as luxurious and flawless as the exterior. That's why the car maker customizes the upholstery for each buyer, right down to the stitching pattern. It takes 5 cowhides to upholster a single ST1. Here, specially trained craftsmen unfold a hide on a cutting table. They begin by inspecting the surface for any flaws. Next, they lay the cutting patterns out. They use small metal weights to keep the patterns in place as they work. These cutting patterns were created by both the upholstery specialist and the car's designer. The craftsmen trace the outline of the patterns, transferring the cutting plan to the cowhide. They must pay close attention to the position of each pattern on the hide. The leather closest to the spine of the cow is the best quality material. The leather becomes thinner and flawed near the belly area of the cowhide. Now, the upholstery specialist begins cutting out the segments. These pieces will be used to upholster parts of the seats and doors. It takes both training and practice to be able to cut with this combination of speed and precision. Once the patterns are cut, it's time to put them all together. A craftsman uses a sewing machine to join 2 pieces with a closed stitch. Leather is an unforgiving material, so the worker must proceed with great care. While you can be trained to become an automotive upholstery specialist in less than a year, true mastery takes much longer. This technician's expertise makes the process look much easier than it actually is. Now he uses a machine that sews a double stitch pattern. The customer can choose this decorative feature in any color they wish. Sewing leather requires specialized sewing machines, needles, and thread, as well as careful adjustment of the thread tension. The thread must be made of upholstery-weight polyester or rayon, or it could easily break when sewing. Here, a craftsman installs a section of the door upholstery. This centerpiece has been quilted with an embroidery machine. It takes 2.5 hours to embroider the pattern on this particular section. He carefully installs the armrest, ensuring the tightest possible fit. The embroidered quilting above the armrest is a hexagonal pattern. This design motif is found throughout the ST1. Even the car's grille features hexagons. The technician carefully inspects every inch of the upholstery surface to ensure it's flawless. A craftsman will follow the same procedure for each of the car's interior elements. This inspection process plays a large role in why it takes roughly 10 months to build a single ST1. Final assembly of the ST1 takes place at this plant in Zeeland, Denmark. It takes about 4 months for technicians to take the various sub-assemblies and transform them into a complete high-performance hypercar. Some of the sub-assemblies of this ST1 have been here for 2 months. Workers carefully build them piece by piece. Here, 2 technicians install the left door to the frame. Now it's time to add the piece that will house the gas cap and feed pipe. Flanges on the top and bottom of the part provide attachment points. The technician lines everything up and screws it in place. The carbon fiber weave is clearly visible on this part. This was done for aesthetic effect. The worker lines up the mouth of the gas pipe and attaches it. Once it's securely in place, he installs Zenvo's signature aluminum gas cap. This next part serves 3 functions. It houses the tail lights, provides a support frame for the exhaust pipe, and has a grille that vents hot air from the engine. The part is made of anodized aluminum rather than plastic to protect it from the high temperatures generated by the engine and exhaust pipe. It's time to install the rear windshield frame, which is also made of aluminum. Technicians attach the glass in the top portion of the frame. The bottom third remains open, providing another vent for the hot engine air. The grille of the vent features the same hexagonal design motif repeated throughout the car. Now, workers install the rear hood. They inspect the gaps between panels to ensure they're correctly aligned. The gaps on the ST1 are relatively narrow compared to other handmade low-volume production cars. The carefully designed rear spoiler will keep the ST1 on the ground, even when it hits those high speeds. The technicians have left the rear construction open so they can easily install the engine. They use a hydraulic crane system to help them correctly position the V8 powerhouse before bolting it in. Thanks to the engine's location, the car's weight distribution is 56% in the rear and 44% in the front. Next, workers install the supercharger, which sits on top of the intake manifold. Inside the manifold is one of the intercoolers we saw being constructed earlier. Now, a technician adds the engine's number plate. On the plate is the serial number ST1009, because this is car number 9. Insulation on the turbine side of the turbocharger improves efficiency and helps prevent overheating in the engine compartment. Zenvo's made-to-order engine management system will control every aspect of the car's performance. Once the ST1 is fully assembled, it's ready for the all-important dyno testing phase. It takes an entire day to complete this step, as Zenvo adjusts all the parameters of the car's sophisticated electronics. Since the car is Bluetooth enabled, there's no need to hook up any cables to monitor the car's performance. Ducts situated directly behind the tailpipes vent the car's exhaust outdoors while it's being tested. Once it's past the dyno station testing stage, this ST1 is ready for mandatory road testing. Thanks to the design of its exterior lines, even when parked, the car looks like it's ready to pounce. A sleek molded heat shield covers the turbocharger under the rear hood. Inside, Zenvo's signature hexagonal pattern can be found throughout the car. From the main instrument display graphics to the infotainment console and upholstery. In the Scandinavian design tradition, form is always supposed to follow function. The function of the ST1 is to terrify the competition and look good while doing it. With its predatory curves covering a supercharged turbo V8, capable of punching the car from 0 to 60 in just 3 seconds, this Danish hypercar is actually quite traditional.